In spiritual awareness, as in dealing with personal space, if you're close to someone, you feel all their energies. If you step 6 feet away, or sitting 6 feet away, your energies and your whatever you're feeling or experience dissipates to nothing, and you're two different entities, two different individual souls. That has to do with feng shui, where you set up a room where the energies are such, because everything that's in it, every work of art or furniture or whatever, has a certain spacing where it disappears, and eventually you feel, when you do it right, that you're in an open space. Moving quite quickly to a deeper reality of spiritual illumination, when you get yourself quiet, and in the feng shui of your heart and soul, you step away from the world entirely, and we'll go into some details that will help. The world doesn't exist. You're completely apart from the world as a soul. You're a free spirit. You feel what's really here behind all the subterfuge of bodies and time and history. There is no time or history. Einstein proved that in one sense, but his real job was mysticism. That's what he really was involved in. But for us today, it's to understand if you step away from everything, and there are methods of doing it, there are areas of meditation, of whatever form you use to step away from the world, to quiet yourself, to calm yourself. There's a certain relaxation response as soon as you step away from people. You let a large breath out, and you'll feel very calm, quiet, mystical, if you will. If you find ways to step away from the entire world every day, in a few months, the world won't be. It won't be. That's why the monks go off into the mountains, or my friend Frida Beatty, who lived that, she lived it around people because she was responsible, but basically, was a friend in India, Frida Beatty. She was an abbess and translator for the Karmapa, and just certain people like that have a quiet to them that others never recognize, or they always judge something about you or your life that's the person you become. So as a spiritual person, this all involves with what I began with. No one ever sees the openness, the emptiness that you are. Emptiness in terms of relation to the world. You're just calm, sweet, kind, because that's what you are. And you discover yourself incarnate as a person, that's when all the trouble begins. So at a point, we realize what happened, and we step back, we step away from it all. And then it dissipates, it gets lighter and lighter, and with some degree of quiet, it disappears. And you're in this very special place. It's very open. In Buddhism, they call it empty mind. In other words, you empty your mind of the world. The world no longer is for you. Just the holiness of existence. God, it's you. It's in your heart and soul, and that's why we rediscover it when we have a child, or aware of something of a very special, deeply artistic nature or something. We're touched, and we step away from the everyday sensitivities. One way of doing it would be to write your issues on a piece of paper, and it's better to write it on paper and set it aside rather than your device. I studied the mnemonics when I was in high school, and so before I'd study for a test, I got a GED because I went in the Marine Corps on it, and so you would underline, if you have to, or like a text, and you would underline it in a light yellow the first time you read it. Second time you read it, a day or two later, a light green through the light yellow. And then the third time, a day or two later, just before the test, you would underline it in a red right through it. So those 3 times, the mnemonics in the mind, that's the way the memory works in the human mind. And so I always got hundreds in tests once I did that, because that's the way the mind works. So if you write on paper rather than digitally, it'll that whole process, you see what I'm saying, without going any further into something so mundane, it works. Figure out ways to relax yourself, walk around your room if you feel kind of out of your body a little bit, and you step in, you touch something, touch that, and recognize yourself. So I touch that, thank you. Touch that, thank you. I do this with individuals that come to that I work with. I'll touch the wall, thank you. Touch the painting, and they'll walk over and touch the painting, and once they touch the painting, I'll say, thank you. So the mind, that's the way the mind works. You say hello and goodbye. These are very, very important. They're more important than anything you say. And once you get this down, you learn how to communicate, and the feng shui of the mind is clear and capable. You'll realize that no one, if you're truly spiritual, no one has ever listened to you in your entire life. The beginning of a love relationship you might have, where our hearts and souls are open and you listen about certain things, but the deeper issues of life, or even love, no one's going to actually listen to you. They're going to react and say, well, that's that. But you have to step back, be quiet. Got it, thank you. Then what happened? So that's why I insist that people I work with come to my place, because it's not there. There's no world in my living room. It's always been a temple. And there's no world in your mind, in your heart, in your soul. It's always been a temple. And as soon as you step away from the world quietly, calm your senses, find a different way. I mentioned a few. There are endless, thousands of self-enhancement techniques available to us. And they all take us to the Pure Land. God, Godness, your original nature, it's who you are. As soon as you're there, there are no questions, there are no answers, there's no dilemma. Even the personhood of yourself becomes almost negligible than nothing. But it's a very, very private affair, isn't it? That's why love and so forth and deep relationship, why it touches you so forth, but it's just because you're touching some of these areas, but in a haphazard way. But if you do them on their own, quiet, relax the breathing, quiet the mind, acknowledge the presences you feel. In the scripture, John said, St. John said, try the spirits. In other words, we feel presences, don't we? And it's wonderful. But he's simply saying to make sure that everything is holy in your atmosphere. Because when you're deeply spiritual, you'll feel people all day, every day. All my life, I felt every spiritual person, great souls, good people, and all the people that have truly been my friends over the years. They visit me all the time. This week I had great people visit me spiritually, been contacted directly by a number, and they give you the impetus, the desire, they give you the power to go on. Because the world will never remind you of the true you that was never born, that remains in the Pure Land. That's you. Regard yourself more highly, more simply, more purely, more courageously by practicing some of these methods of coming to this place of quietude. Ephemeral, you're just on the edges of reality. But as soon as you step away from it and you're not conscious of other bodies, there are no bodies. That's the Garden of Eden. That's the mistaken consciousness. Me being spiritual, I don't relate to people through their body. I see their soul, like my dear friend Jessica Peterson. She's a great, great, great astrologer, although her doctorate is in AI. But she's a great counselor for people because she has that inner presence, that simple purity. It's something holy and divine. She does not know that. I'm saying it to her, she's right here, but it's something holy, and you, because of that, you see other people in a better light than they really are. And That's just a deep kindness of the heart and soul. And we all have that. And I'm asking us to own that through practicing whatever methods we find. Like Jessica being a counselor, she talks to people and you're, oh my God, she's talking right to your soul. She has all details about you. She's figured them out in moments from knowing when you were born and so forth. But it's, there's so many ways of doing that. What we're talking about today is not nihilism, not no, we don't believe in anything. It's when you quietly step apart from the world that seems to be, and are involved with the actual essence and presence of awareness and consciousness. It's something holy. It's divine. It's you. It's always been you. And you step away from the world formed to God, unformed, uncreated, unconditioned. And those early quiet moments, everything that's being said will open and blossom out to thousands and thousands of spiritual universes that are all present. So when you step away from your case of being the person you seem to be in this world, through utilizing whatever methods you want to employ, then there's an openness, sweetness, a kindness to it, but it has nothing to do with this world. You'll be kinder and sweeter to people, also much more powerful, but no one will ever back you up, no one will ever listen to you in your whole life, except maybe that one or two people or someone like a Jessica that's spiritual that wants to counsel and will listen to you and then extrapolate out why, because it's just a spiritual discipline. So find the spiritual discipline. Preferably you quieting you. Finding a way to step away from the world formed to God unformed, uncreated. Unrealizable by any agency of this world. There is no book, there is no religion, there is, you touch on that, but what I'm talking about today is quietude. You don't go to anyone for that. You disappear on your feet into the living light. And that's what will save what seems to be this world, which is a hell. All spiritual people know that, but you don't have to get fired up about it. You have to get quiet about it. And there's nothing you cannot do when you're there. Here. When you're you. It's always been you. This is the answer. Step away from the world. It won't be, it is an illusion, it's a projection, whatever you want to call it. It is that simple. You think a God of any universe would want us to go through all the drudgery that we deal with in the material world? No, of course not. And there is a real God. And your God's light of ray in this world to dispel the darkness. And you'll do it through becoming quiet, realizing your perfect involvement with God, and that why you came here, why you're that ray of light, and then you'll spread that light, that simplicity, that happiness, that kindness, that joy, that healing balm that will fill the earth with a song. And the earth won't be just a song. Your heart is more powerful than everything, than anything. There is no time, no history, no past or future, no present, only this openness. It's all yours, you own it. You wear it so well. I'm speaking to the real you. People don't do this with one another, they're lost, they're delusional, and they never, never, never listen to you. If you know what I've said from the beginning here, My friend Rosenberg taught me this 50 years ago. I always did it automatically. I'd say hello or goodbye twice, or I'd thank you twice, because thank you for the meeting or whatever, or the time together, and then thank you for what you said, acknowledge what's said, and very quietly in a spiritual space. And that's true religion. That's true. To have the consideration to acknowledge another human being's presence. That's true religion. I mean, they're both spiritual, like with a friend like Jessica, or Rosamund, who passed maybe 6-8 years ago. I just found out recently. She sent away from my doctorate of divinity. She wanted me to marry her, to be her minister with her combat Marine buddy of ours. She wanted to marry him, and she was very deeply, deeply spiritual, so not of this world, and a genius, and just so it happened just like that. And the experience of the wedding was so clean. It was like it didn't happen. If you can't find a friend like that, or realize you've met one, then talk to God, and God will talk to you. This is all very simple. Just pull away from the mundane to the profound, quiet. There's nothing more beautiful than this day. You are a divine presence, a devout soul, a holy personage. This is the end of a spiritual pilgrimage for you, to that trajectory called birth, where you now sit back quietly and illumine the world. And that which won't be illumined is the world, and will remain as a hell for some time, or you look through it and it won't exist. In the end, it's an illusion, fear-based, and it will yield. It will always yield. That's what they call a miracle, is someone who believes so deeply in God that things can change. I've done that or experienced that in every conceivable condition. Every conceivable condition. And that's why I'm so clear on it, because I'm up there, and it's many, many, many years of experiencing everything all the time, and just so I'll be able to treat the next person that comes along with a certain familiarity of their problem, because I have faced it. And you give yourself to this, so there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing to feel guilty about. Whoever you might be on paper to someone, or all that means nothing. Let go of all your conditioning. That's what we talked about, 10 things on paper. Listen to people, listen to yourself, realize you never did anything wrong. You were set up. If you get very quiet, you'll see how you were set up in every circumstance, because the world is what's called the devil. So it is hell. So with that in mind, you look back and you'll realize that different people just think they're a person in a body at a time. That's all the devil is. It doesn't mean that you were. It means that you meet people halfway, don't you? So I'll be Robert Rosenberg if you want me to. Or I'll be if you want me to. Be I want you to. There is a God. You are a spiritual presence in the midst of an illusion. Break the spell. You'll be glad all over. The days of your waiting are over. Relinquish the sense of time, even personhood. Things, let go of things. So that you get quiet, say, write your issues on paper, let them go, let go of all that, realize you've been set up from birth. You volunteered for this mission, and you're ready for it now. To try to withstand your glance, your gaze, when you are now aware of divinity in your heart and soul, in your mind, from your eyes, and your voice. Will disappear your enemies, and you'll sing a new song. And the old ways, the old things will be done. It's all unconsciousness. You don't have to leave your easy chair. It doesn't matter what you do to undo. Undo in consciousness all relationships, things, places, thoughts, ideas, everything. First of all, know there are no experts in the world about anything. Everyone in the world, all my friends with this or that, created the great things. It's a delusion, an illusion. If they worked with their heart to get there, great. But we're uncreating, aren't we? And that's the answer. It's a very beautiful place to be. There's just you and this lightness in the air. And that's the very edges of God's breath. But you're God's gift to the world, that the world yield before your every step, before your thoughts, your presence. You're more powerful than all the armies, visible and invisible in the world. You're more forceful than time or circumstance. Things, not things. There's only you. You're here for greatness. You don't shout it from the rooftop. You just remember why you did this, why you gave yourself to this challenge. It's been a challenge. That's not being disregarded in this little talk we're having together. It's been a hell on wheels for you, hasn't it? Every moment of every day, basically. When you realize that not even your very best friends have ever listened to you, you'll understand what this means. It'll come to you. There's a spiritual teaching, so this will come to you. There is a God, you are God's light. You'll uninvolve yourself from this circumstance. And in doing so, realize the gifts you have, and you'll inspire many. And we'll fold up the sidewalks. There'll be no more wars or rumors of wars. This is power. Your heart is the answer. Walk away from everything. It can't get here. It can't follow you here. You are a beautiful person. You are divine magnificence, beyond thought, emotion, beyond perception. That's you. Yes, it's been a living hell for our consciousness being here. Now we understand what happened. We did it voluntarily. Doesn't mean you go back and fight and get angry with people. Just realize that everyone you've met has set you up in different ways. And there are wonderful people like our mom and so forth, or a Jessica in our life that are just so decent that it's, it's horrible. And you wonder how they've existed through a lifetime. And they've felt the same horribleness that we feel. But they lived beyond it and been gracious and kind and true despite it all. So let's do this for our mom, for the Jessicas in our life, for the precious souls that reminded us that they do feel a sense of goodness from us. Because most people won't. But that doesn't matter. You're not here to gab about with people, you're here to relinquish any sense of time or circumstance or even purpose and disappear back into the quiet from whence you are and whither you go. And whither you go, the path is not known. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Mr. Spolta.